Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ebony, also known as Coach Lux, owner of Lux Wellness LLC, and I am so grateful for you all being a part of the Lux Wellness family here on YouTube. I would also like to have you over on Instagram at Lux_Wellness LLC. By the title, you can see that I'm going to be providing you all with a bit of a life update that I think is so necessary. And this life update is in honor of my mom. This was truly her idea, and so for someone who's going through such a difficult time as she is, to empower me and inspire me to bring this video to life as an effort to help somebody else, I think that speaks a lot about who she is. So let's get right into the update. So for some time now, I have been riding a wave and going through a journey with someone who I truly adore, who has been my personal life coach, and that is my mom. My mom is currently battling cancer, and this has been for some time now. And if anyone was wondering why I decreased in taking on new clients and or why my content has been a little bit inconsistent, that is why I have dedicated my life to being one of my mom's primary caretakers during this journey. And I must say that if you have ever experienced anything that's similar, where you're dealing with a family member, loved one, and or close friend who was suffering from a chronic illness, then you know, right? There are good days, there are bad days, but initial onset of things sometimes still takes us over, and we try to work through those things as caregivers. And so that's what I've kind of been navigating through, while also navigating home life, wife life, mom life, entrepreneurship. And I must say, I'm okay. No need for anybody to get frantic about me, because I am well, and I am also very strong enough and brave enough to say if I was not okay, I would bring it to my content, because I want my content to be transparent, inspiring, and educational to those of you that can relate to my content. But I would like to say initially, before we get into any more of the video, that I am doing well now, and that I will continue to work on myself through this challenge, because it is a very difficult time. So let's take a few steps back. Initial diagnosis, this just came out of the blue. And when I say out of the blue, I mean literally just fell out of the sky. It kind of feels like, right? There was not any major symptoms. There was not any indications that she was suffering from cancer. She happened to just out of the blue fall ill. I took her in for an urgent visit, and that's where we found the location of the tumors, and proceeded to move on with other screening and testing that confirmed that we were in fact dealing with cancer. And what I also would like to say before moving forward during the video is that I need you all to understand this, and this may be a good reflection for someone else who's currently in this situation, that it doesn't take for the person to be physically gone to grieve. Okay, because if you really think about it, those of you who have had the opportunity to be in close engagement and network with anyone who was chronically ill, that illness starts to take over them so rapidly, and it takes over who they are, how they function, the laughter they have, the way that they communicate, the way that they nurture, the way that they just complete day-to-day tasks. You lose a small part of that person during the fight. Okay, and when I say my mom's a fighter, she is truly fighting. And I just thank God for the ability to be a part of this. Although this is something that I wouldn't wish on anyone, it's something that I ask myself why every day. But as a woman of faith, I know the answer in the back of my head, but the human part of me still asks why her. And she is really a trooper. We have been through a lot of ups and downs during this journey, and treatment has been a beast for her, and yet she doesn't complain. She just goes with the flow. She just rides the wave. She's a little overgoing all these appointments, but that's just her. And so after things were confirmed, it was a very, very difficult time for all of us, but I'm going to speak for me right now. It was so hard to grasp that I literally could not speak words. I remember calling two of my aunts, and not even being able to speak words. I can remember just screaming, attempting to try to say what I needed to say, because my pain level internally was so heavy. Things just went black. Things just went dark for a second, you know. And I want to say that if you are someone who's being told not to deal with yourself emotionally, I want you to disregard that, because your emotions are real and they're valid. And how you choose to respond to negative news, negative emotions, trauma, mental health challenges is a part of how you're going to learn how to navigate through these things. And it'll make more sense as I go through this life update, because one of the things I've been told repeatedly, which I really don't understand, but I do, is that because I'm a mental health therapist and life coach, you shouldn't handle things like that. You got to be stronger than that, you know? And then I always ask the individual, what is that? You know what I mean? Because I think it's important for us to understand that as mental health therapists, life coaches, psychiatrists, behavior management analysts, whatever your role may be in the behavior management world, is that you're still human. And I think that's a part of us. And when I say us, I mean those of us that work in the mental health profession, that individuals try to take away from us, that we are emotionless. And it's incorrect. Okay. So there is still a part of me that's emotionally dealing with this, although I'm in a much better place. I am strong enough to even talk about it. I had never planned on putting out a video to talk about my mom's cancer journey. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't anything that I thought we shouldn't, talk about, or that we should hide as a family. It's just not who I am on any of my social media platforms. I feel that in order to be an influence or an impact, in a social media form, you don't have to bring every aspect of your life to the camera. And so if anybody felt that way, I would like to send a sincere apology, but it's just never been who I am as a person. It's never been who my family is as a person. And I just really didn't feel the need to bring it here. But after having a conversation with my mom, and I'm going to just bring this video with true transparency. I was talking to her, and we've always, even before her diagnosis, we've always had deep conversations, life-changing conversations. And she's a very honest person. If you know, you know. So she's going to tell you in the raw, and that may just be the thing you need to hear to get through whatever it is you're going through, right? Or to just see things differently. But she said, why don't you go ahead and just drop a video, just to do a video, talk about it, talk about how you're getting through it, things that you learn, and it may help somebody else, Ebony. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. And here I am. So 3 things I want individuals to take from this video is that there is a way to navigate through life's challenges, even when it feels like you're not going to make it to tomorrow. 2, that education is paramount. When you go through these difficult times, especially when we're looking at chronic illnesses, it's important for you to get as educated on that topic if you are not familiar with it, as much as you can. And that will really help you and your loved one to get through, navigate, and or make the right choices for their care. Okay. And lastly, that it's going to bring on a huge change. It's going to bring on something new, because you're going to have to learn how to now take care of yourself during the journey, while also taking care of somebody else. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. Once we think about it, it doesn't seem easy. It doesn't feel easy every day, of course, right? Because we're all managing so much. A lot of you are wearing different hats. A lot of you have no idea what you're doing as a caregiver. You don't know really what you need as a caregiver. But these are the conversations that I want to bring to my channel, because this is where we get uplifted. This is where we get empowered. This is where we get inspired to keep going when we feel like we can't move anymore, or that we just can't go anymore, right? Mentally or emotionally or spiritually. And so one of the things I did after getting myself together emotionally, and making some changes with my work life, because let me tell you something. If you know me, you know my mama is my girl. Okay, my mom has been my right hand man, not only since birth, but I'm talking about navigating through life. One of the reasons why we respond to life-changing events, death, grief, chronic illnesses, the way that we do is because of how we're emotionally attached to a person, right? And when I tell you I'm emotionally attached to my parents, but more so to my mom, because I'm the only girl and I'm the youngest, so I just have a different place, right? I have a different place in the family. It's been very difficult to see the way that this disease has impacted both of our lives, right? Because grief doesn't start when the person is no longer here in a physical form. You know, it starts when the onset of symptoms start, because you lose a part of how that person functions every day. You lose their smile, you lose their way of communicating, you lose a part of how they can nurture, you lose a part of them being there mentally and emotionally, you lose a part of them being happy and no fault of their own, because they're in a fight for their life. And if you're emotionally attached to someone, then you know the struggles that it can also impact and result in you being emotionally and mentally well, right? And this is why it's important for us to have coping skills. This is why it's important for us to face our negative emotions and our fears when times come, because they are going to stay there. They are not going anywhere, and they're just going to be a part of our cycle as we go through the journey. So I encourage you, if you're going through a tough time right now, if you're showing up for a loved one that's chronically ill, if you're showing up for a friend that's chronically ill, to allow yourself to feel and deal with your emotions as they come, because that is going to be one of the things that saves your life day to day. All right. So after getting myself regrouped emotionally and dealing with the heaviness that I carried in my heart for about a week or two, I made some changes to work, and I have to give a huge shout out to my leadership team. I'm also a professor in higher education at a local institution, and I was amazed at the support that I was given and the changes that were approved for me to continue to teach my classes, but to be present with my mom at the same time, because I must say at that time, things were not in its best shape. Things were not in the best place, and I didn't know what time looked like. So for me, it was important to make the best changes for me, right? And I encourage you all to do the same. I know firsthand that the lack of support that we get mentally and emotionally in a workplace is just not there for a lot of you. I know a lot of you have or are working at corporate places, or jobs where you get your 3 days of bereavement, or you get your PTO time that you have to use. That's also your vacation time. So you use your time wisely. So you don't know really what to do with your time when things like this happen, and you may not be in this place to do so. But I encourage you to have the conversations that's needed if you are in those places right now, because it's going to be important for even how you show up to do your job. Your mental health can be severely impacted when you are going through the journey with someone that you truly, truly love, and you are riding the wave with them. How can you continue to show up to be as engaged and a progress in your job, and show up in your full self when you're not mentally in a good place? So I encourage you to have those sensitive conversations with your leaders, your administration, so that you can find a way to make modifications to your schedule if the options are there, and just really putting out what you need in this season of your life, because these are times that you may not get back, and you don't want to have that on your heart that I did not make the right changes, or I did not put the best effort forward when it was required of me. Okay, so I made the changes to my job. So again, thank you to my immediate leadership team and administrators that supported me in making the changes that I needed in order to be one of the primary caretakers for my mom. So I made changes to my work schedule. I decreased my client intake. I actually stopped accepting new clients. A lot of people really didn't understand why, but that was one of the reasons why I decreased my client intake, because it's important for me also to make sure that I'm still managing my business and managing a business that still runs professionally. So I didn't want to have clients scheduled, and we ended up in the hospital so many times on this journey, and I'm canceling sessions, and I'm allowing people to feel left out or rejected or neglected, and I didn't want to become a bad business owner because of that. So I made the necessary changes within my business. But happy to say I do plan to start back taking clients at the end of August if all goes well. All right, so I made those changes, and now I do want to shed a little bit of light as to how I emotionally fed myself and or continuing to feed myself during this journey. I must say that not only because I'm a mental health therapist and life coach, but I have also developed healthy coping skills throughout my life because of other personal life challenges that I've encountered. So I think that that's a blessing to be able to have a coping skill toolbox already prepared. So, what do I mean by that? I mean that the things that you've already gone through life should have already taught you some level of lessons, right? Regardless if they're related to what you're going through now. The lesson should have taught you something, and from that lesson you should have identified what do you need to become a stronger version of yourself. What do you need to become a more calm version of yourself? What do you need to know how to navigate tough times, bad news, trauma, and when depression or anxiety kicks in? And so thankful to that, I already function with a good level of coping skills. Have those coping skills helped me every day during this journey? No, there were some days where my emotions have really got the best of me and my negative thinking has taken over me. I started to feel a little bit of anxiety started to kick in, right? Because there's a lot of uncertainty during this time, right? There's a lot of medications, treatment, negative responses to treatment. There's a lot of days where, the appetite is just not there. There's a lot of days where, you just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring with this level of illness. And so there were days where I found myself being a little bit more anxious than others. But because I have coping skills, I know how to regroup when I feel my anxiety kicking in. I know how to practice my positive self-talk when I feel the negative thoughts starting to overwhelm me. I know how to calm my own nervous system, on the nights where I start to see that I'm having 2 nights of insomnia. This is a little bit much, let me regroup, because I still have to show up as a mother. I still have to show up in other roles in my life. So it's important that I keep myself grounded. And not only that, but because self-care is so top tier, especially when you're going through something, you have to have some level of understanding on how to regroup when times are tough. And I know this sounds easier said than done, but if we do not have a set of coping skills in our toolbox, we are just setting ourselves up to hit rock bottom in any challenging situation that comes our way. So it's important for us to really think about, do I have coping skills? Do I practice coping skills when needed? Do I really know how to demonstrate saving myself when I'm in panic mode, when I'm highly anxious, or when I'm angered by something? These are things I want you all to think about to yourself. And I think that this video is going to be so helpful to somebody, because I know there are some of you that's overwhelmed with a lot of different emotions and a lot of thoughts behind it, and not really knowing where to put them, how to process them, so that you can continue on your healing journey, or that you can continue to ride the wave with the loved one that you are riding the wave with. Okay. And then it's important that I also put out there that in all of this, right, I've also been superhero mommy, right? One, if you know, I highly value and pride myself on being a mom. I will give up anything and any other hat that I wear to continue my journey with motherhood. I absolutely love being a mother, even on the days when it seems overwhelming. I absolutely value being a mom. But even during motherhood, that's been a little bit of a challenge. My son was actually injured in a car accident caused by a DUI driver that actually claimed the life of one individual. And that injury, or those injuries, should I say, has been something that we've been recovering with for the past 2 years. He's had to learn how to walk. We've had multiple surgeries, multiple hospital visits. So I'm not only the caretaker, one of the primary caretakers for my mom, but I'm also a primary caretaker for my son. And what I want to say to anybody in this situation is that when you are in the situation of standing in the gap for one of your children and or a loved one, it is partially your responsibility. And maybe you don't know this, or maybe you've identified it and it just seems to be too much, because it can be. But to some degree, we become partially responsible for how these individuals function and continue on their journeys emotionally. Not only physically, right? But physically, we only have so much control, because at this point now, we're dependent on the medical providers. We're dependent on the specialists. We're dependent on the surgeons. We're dependent on the oncologists, right? Or we're dependent on the people who have the expertise to handle them from a medical aspect. But when we are home with our individuals, which is why it's so important for you all to create these therapeutic home spaces that I'm talking about in my content, because this is the place where you're going to deal with yourself and your emotions the most. This is where you're going to be alone with yourself and your emotions the most. This is where you're going to find yourself dwelling in your emotions, whether negative or positive emotions, the most, okay, in your home spaces. But it's partially our responsibility in being an impact and or keeping our children afloat when they're going through their challenges, because we're moms. That's what we signed up to do. That's what we signed up to do. The day we got those two little lies on that pregnancy test, you had already vouched to be emotionally responsible, physically responsible, financially responsible, and mentally responsible, and spiritually responsible for another life. So if I could be honest, that has not been the easiest road, but we are navigating through this situation. We are doing well. He's doing well. I'm hoping what is his last surgery, which was his surgery about 3 weeks ago. I'm hoping that this was his last surgery and that he can get back to having a high quality life and a high functioning life. But I shared that to say there are multiple things going on right now. And when I tell you, okay, when I tell you that there have been days where my thought process has been a little bit overwhelmed in as to how I'm going to navigate from day to day, okay, how I'm going to navigate from day to day. One of the things that has really helped me is positive self-talk and journaling. Now, I have always loved journaling since being a young child, but journaling has allowed me to process my own personal feelings and thoughts within a manner in which I understand between me and God, and allowing me to identify how I'm going to navigate through those different emotions or the different needs of the people that I serve and the people that I thank God for using me as a vessel for in this season of my life. So I really want to strongly encourage you, if you are someone who's becoming overwhelmed with how am I going to do this? What do I need to do this? And you feel helpless, you feel hopeless, get into your journal, get into your word, get into yourself. Because that's where your deep emotions lie. They lie within yourself. They lie in between you and your pen and your paper, because there you're allowed to be free with your emotions. There are going to be people around you that's not going to understand where you are emotionally as you navigate such a huge challenge in your life. There's people around you that's going to go silent on you when you're fighting some of the biggest beasts in your life. And these people probably come as a surprise, because you probably showed up in the lives of these individuals more than you know. There are going to be times when you feel alone during the journey. There are times when you're going to feel like you need more hands on deck. But here's what I want to say. As long as you do your best, and as long as you show up in the manner in which you can, you've done your job. You've done your job. And one of the things I was not going to allow to happen was for me to focus on work, securing the bag, helping other individuals when I didn't know what time looked like. So I made the necessary choices for me that I could in order to be that vessel in my mom's life. So I'm just so thankful that God has allowed me the opportunity to do so, because I cannot sit here on this camera and I cannot think of one time when my mom has not showed up for me. And I know this may not be the story for a lot of you, because I do understand, especially in the line of work that I do as a mental health therapist and life coach, a lot of you don't know what that emotional attachment feels like with your parents. You don't know what that emotional attachment feels like with a mom. And I want to say to you, If nobody has ever told you, I want to apologize to you during this video, because I think one of the greatest things that we can get in life is emotional attachment to the people who birthed us, to the people who made us. So for those of you who understand where I am and you have high emotional attachments to your mothers or your fathers, in this, for the sake of the video, I'm going to stick with my mom because she's the one going through this trial right now. It is such a beautiful thing to understand that the emotional attachment that we share, although this is a tough time, that it has taught both of us so much about life. You know, we share things that we've learned from each other. And I am a true reflection of my mom as far as a lot of the ways that I parent, the soft side of me, the side of me that can be direct sometimes. And I think that that is a few of the things that has made her proud to know that she has truly been a reflection in my life, and not only during the bad times, you know what I mean, but that she has truly been an impact in the woman that I am today. So I think that it's really, really important for us to understand emotional attachments, because those are the things that we're going to find the hardest to get through during the grieving process. And again, I'm not talking about a person being physically gone, okay? I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I don't want to put any misinformation out there, but it's important for us to understand that emotional attachments are so important. And so for those of you who still have the opportunity to get it right with your children, for those of you that still have the opportunity to get it right with your mothers and your fathers, I want you all to take away from this video the thought process of how and when you're going to make the necessary steps to regroup and get regrounded and start to build a rapport in a relationship with your children and or your parents, because time is of the essence. And I could assure you, I am not in your shoes. I do not know what experiences you've had with your parents and or your caregivers, because I also want to shed some light that there are some of you who have mother figures in your life that have been more of a mother to you than the person who birthed you. So let's give a shout out to all the people that stood in the pain and stood up 10 toes down to raise children that were not theirs. But by you being the person that you was, you saved a life. You saved someone emotionally and mentally. And I think that is so important to understand, because as I go through this journey with my mom, I cannot imagine my life without my mom. I cannot imagine a day without speaking to her and hearing her voice and just being uplifted by a word that she shares with me, or being able to pass off ideas to her. My mom does not have any social media content, but she watches all of my content as far as my public speaking events or my empowerment events, or just my content on YouTube and Instagram. We do not discuss any clients, of course, but she watches everything that I do, and she's not even into social media. But that's how supportive she is that she's just still in tune into what I'm doing and how I'm showing up in my life. And I think it's important for us to show a high level of gratitude for the people that continue to show up in our lives day to day. And lastly, I want to say some of the things that has helped me and her and my father. I do have another sibling. I also have a brother. So it's been a lot of education going on. So I'm asking specific questions. On onset of her treatment, when all of this first started, I needed to know specifically, okay, we're doing chemo. What medications are we doing? Because I wasn't aware that there was different types of medication regimens for chemo. Again, you know what I mean? You have to ask the questions if you don't understand, because your understanding is going to be a big part of how you navigate through treatment, especially as a caretaker. So I made a folder. Honey, I'm well organized. Y'all know I'm all about organization. So I organized the folder for her that's just meant for her medical needs. And I got into specifically what medications are we looking at? Is this the best medication regimen for her type of cancer? We did some genetic testing to make sure that one, that it hadn't metastasized, and two, to make sure that we were on track with getting or starting the specific medication regimens prescribed to her. We also did some more additional testing that showed that there is another result of testing that we have done that has revealed that there is another line of medication that we can try if we're not successful with the current treatment. So there are options. We're staying hopeful. We are staying prayerful. We are standing on faith. But it's important to get into your medical team's brain and tell them to explain to you the best way that you can understand, so that you understand when you start seeing results and or changes within your loved one from certain medication treatments and or reactions, you know what I mean, from certain medications, and that you have a broad understanding as to what this medical treatment looks like. Of course, we went over signs and symptoms, and I think that losing her hair has been a bit of an impact on her mental health. But and don't get me wrong, she's grateful to still be here, to still have life. But to start to physically see changes in yourself when you're chronically ill, it makes it more real for a lot of people. And now I'm speaking to you as a professional. It makes it more real. It makes it more daunting on you emotionally. So I think that's been a big impact. But we've gotten over that. We've rolled the wave through that. She's doing fine. I actually suggested to her, when I started to see her hair fall out as a result of chemotherapy, I said, listen, you have a beautiful face. Let's just go ahead and take this hair off so we don't have to go through the emotional journey of watching it fall out every day. And she thought about it for a day or two. She's like, no, I don't want to do it. I said, okay, well, let's not do it. Second day she called. She's like, you know what? You're right. I cannot deal with waking up and seeing my hair in the pillow. Let's just do it. So I went over and I shaved her head and I gave her a nice hug, and I remember just speaking to her spiritually, you know what I mean? And it's so funny because, listen, raise a child in the way that they should go. You never know when your child is going to have to be a result of everything that you've given to them. And I remember how many times my mom has prayed over me, prayed for my life when I was going through certain things in my life, when I was on the table, you know, about to give birth, when I was going through my infertility journey, or when I was just having, you know, a difficult time navigating through life, you know, growing pains. And now to be able to uplift her in prayer and cover her life has been one of the things that I think has shedded a light on us both overall. Because to be able to speak life into a parent is something remarkable, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity, right? We don't get that opportunity. And so I just spoke life into her spiritually. I remember praying over her. I asked her, I said, can I pray for you? So let's pray together. And we prayed, and zip, I just zipped it off, and we went on with life. We went on with life, and ain't nobody worried about no hair, because she is not her hair. And if you are somebody that's going through a cancer journey and you're struggling with that aspect, and as a woman, I understand that, trust me, but you are not your hair. Right now, you are in the fight for your life, and there are bigger things that we need to redirect our focus on, because the hair will grow back. And actually her hair is starting to grow back. And chemo, we didn't have the best results that we hoped for, so we're no longer doing chemo. But I would say some of the side effects from the chemo has been lingering around, so we're navigating through that. And I would like to say that she does have a great medical team for the most part, and that they're very communicative and they're very open, because if you know me, you know, sometimes I show up as a lawyer, even though I'm a mental health therapist. I show up with my questions. I show up with my, you know, my notes, my briefcase. Like, I'm just ready to, you know, I'm about business when it's time to be about business. You know, I'm just making y'all laugh. But when it's time to get serious for understanding, you know, you have to go in prepared. So that's one of the things I would say, you know, if you're somebody who's going through this, make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that every visit you have your questions written down. Make sure that if they use a term that you don't understand, you ask for clarification. Doesn't matter how many times you have to ask. Your clarification is important for you understanding how to treat this person once you take them home. Ask about reported side effects to certain medications that your loved one may be prescribed. Because that's going to help you understand how to treat the side effects once you get home. So there's a lot of education that goes into this. One of the other things that helped me was I met with the social worker and the nutrition onset of things. And so I had an idea as to how things were going to change over time, which they have. And I understood that there was going to be a lack of appetite. There was going to be and or a possibility of other side effects that thankfully we haven't had to deal with, but the side effects that we have had to deal with, that we were able to tackle them head on accordingly, and that we're trying everything that's available to us and in the best of our ability. So make sure that if you are in this challenge or if you're going through this journey with someone that you truly love, that you get the understanding and the education that you need. And if you don't understand, you continuously ask that provider for an understanding until you understand. And I think a lot of times that's kind of where we fall short. We don't want to ask for information because we're afraid of looking ignorant to a certain degree. We're afraid of how we're going to be perceived because we don't understand. Here's the thing. If you are not a doctor, you may not understand all of the terms. You may not understand the treatment plan. You may not understand what they're saying. But as a provider, it is their responsibility to understand that the patient and their caregiver understands the treatment plan, the process, and how to navigate through certain medical screens. It is their responsibility. So please let go whatever shame you have, let go whatever negative thoughts you have, because right now it's all about you and your loved one. And we can't make the stage about people who have the knowledge while we sitting on the sideline and we don't understand, but yet we say we're fighting, because then the question is, how are you fighting? So how are we fighting? We are trying different things, nutrition wise, staying hydrated, especially in this Florida weather. We are making sure that skincare is top tier, because the skin can become very irritated during certain cancer treatments, can become very irritable. There's even something that I have witnessed, which is called chemo burn. There's a lot of things that can just start to happen. So we're making sure that we stay on top of our skincare treatment, honey. And when I tell you she looks fabulous, she looks so good. We are paying attention to maintaining changes in weight. I do understand why she is tired and fatigued a lot. And we understand that rest is a big part of her immune system recovering from treatment. And so I don't get so antsy when I see her sleeping a lot now. I understand that it's a part of the recovery process. It's a part of what we're going through. We have modified specific bedding that we're using, and we've made things more comfortable, because comfort is top notch right now, right? It's all about us maintaining a healthy mental health, standing on our faith, and maintaining a high level of comfort. So we've made some changes there, and other than that, we're just continuing to love up on each other and just be there. Sometimes your presence is more than anything that you can offer a person that's going through a chronic illness journey. So I'm hoping that this helped someone and this enlightened somebody, and that this empowered you to understand that even during your toughest times, and even when you feel overwhelmed, there is still a way to navigate and take care of yourself in between. Lastly, I want to talk about, how am I taking care of myself in between all of this? Thankfully, before all of this even happened, I am someone who believes in pouring into myself spiritually and emotionally, and self-care has always been something that I've truly enjoyed. And so I have continued on with my previous regimen of taking care of myself. There are times when I may not be able to do as much as I used to do. And then with that, I have just found different days and different times to pour into myself and doing activities that I need and enjoy. I have continued on making sure that my nighttime routine, which is the time that I get to myself, right? Because remember, I'm also taking care of a recovering child at home. I have made it my business to make sure that my shower time is romanticizing myself, that it gives me an opportunity to stop, enjoy how the water feels on my skin and how the oils feel on my skin as I'm rubbing them on my body. I have really paid attention to how I do facial massages now, because there are days when you may feel tense. Those are days where you just need a little bit more relaxation, or you can feel your nervous system starting to, work up, or you feel overstimulated emotionally. I have really just jazzed up my bath time. So I've always been into skincare, like I said, and I've always had a good nighttime regimen, but I have definitely zhuzhed it up a lot. Like, I'm now using my facial steamer a little bit more because it helps me relax and it helps me get a better night's sleep. I have definitely used my eye mask continuously every night. I have not missed a night because it helps me disconnect from the day. It helps me feel like I am away, being calmed by my own body responses. So I have definitely fell deeper in love with my eye mask. I've always slept with an eye mask, but I mean now it's crucial and it's a need because it helps me to disconnect from everything that I have to face in the outside world. Other than that, I've just been focusing more on eating healthier, which was something I already wanted to do for this year. Staying hydrated. I don't go nowhere without water. I've always been someone who's loved water, and I am also paying attention to my mood. Okay, so I have been using a mood chart. I've been using a mood chart because, again, I also have a younger child, and I also have students that I have to respond to and other individuals. And I don't want to redirect anything that any emotion where I may feel overstimulated to anybody, because it's not anybody's fault. I don't want to put that negative part of life on anybody. I don't want to feel conflicted with anyone. I don't want to pose that anybody is a part of the problem, yet I am welcoming people who are part of nurturing me emotionally, and they're a part of the solution. So that's one of the biggest things that I can also say. Make sure that you're giving your energy to the people who are making you feel good about life right now. Make sure that you're giving your energy to people who are really trying to be a part of your support system, that really want you to be okay, that's checking in on you. And maybe that's all that they can do, but that's all that you need right now. Okay, you don't need to pour energy into anybody that's bringing negative energy. You don't need to pour your energy into anyone that's neglecting who you are emotionally right now, because I can say to you that this has been a very difficult time, but because of how we nurture ourselves and how we know what the word says about challenging times, and more so because when you know what you represent in life, you learn how to respond to negative situations because you know better. You have a sense of self-worth, and knowing that it's okay to become emotional, but knowing that when you regroup, there's a certain level of integrity that you have to have about yourself. There's a certain level of kindness that you still have to have to other individuals and yourself, because these are very fragile times, and there have been a lot of days where I felt very emotionally fragile. And so if I saw that there was any negative energy anywhere, I just isolate myself from that until I felt that I can handle those situations, and or just stay away from the negative energy, period. And believe it or not, that's how I live my day-to-day life before any of these challenges happen. So just stay abreast as to where you dwell and the people that you dwell with while taking care of yourself. I'm hoping that this video inspired and empowered somebody to just be the best caregiver that you can be the best caretaker that you can be, but to take care of yourself in between. I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a good one.